Welcome to the Improve and Have Fun podcast. My name is Paul V. Perez, and on this podcast, I work on improving myself while having fun along the way with the hopes of encouraging you to do the same. And I do so by documenting my life and interests. Comic book recommendations, and I've been sitting on these recommendations for some time, but I have a few that I've been holding on to that I want to go ahead and share with you. If you're a comic book reader, some fantastic books that I had trouble putting down because I just wanted to read them and they just kept me so engaged. Let's go ahead and get right into it. In getting ready for the Joker movie, like I said, I've been holding on to these for a while. I wanted to read a really good Batman story. And Comixology does that a lot. When there's a major release of a movie or of a comic book based TV show, they will make a lot of comics from that particular show, that particular movie, like included with the subscription. Like an example, as of this recording, Lock and Key is right now just premiered on Netflix about 2 weeks ago, and they have a bunch of Lock and Key graphic novels and comics on the Comixology Unlimited subscription. All these books that I've read, all these comic books that I've read, these are all in graphic novel format, and these are all, in digital format as well. And I read them all on Comixology with a Comixology subscription. And I recommend it. It's great, especially if you like to read comics. There's manga on there as well if you're into manga. My first recommendation is Batman White Knight. This is an Elseworlds type of story. And Elseworlds, the definition of Elseworlds was the publication imprint for American comic books produced by DC Comics for stories that took place outside the DC Universe canon. You saw it recently with the Arrowverse on the CW, where they had a whole Elseworlds type of a crossover event. I think that was like last year. That was in 2018. That's right. That was not last year. That was in 2018, the end of 2018. But this particular book, Batman White Knight, is an Elseworlds type of story. This book was published, this comic book, this graphic novel was published in between 2017 and 2018. And I want to give you a synopsis of what the book is about, and then I'll give you my thoughts. Batman White Knight follows a man now known as Jack Napier, which is cool because Jack Napier was Joker from the Batman movie from 1989, directed by Tim Burton. Batman White Knight follows a man now known as Jack Napier as he embarks on a quest to heal the city he once terrorized. After reconciling with his long-suffering partner Harley Quinn, he sets in motion a carefully plotted campaign to discredit the one person whom he views as Gotham City's true enemy, and that being Batman. His crusade exposes a decades-long story of corruption within the Gotham City Police Department and transforms Napier into a city councilman and civic hero. But when the sins of the past return to threaten everything that he had accomplished, the distinctions between savior and destroyer begin to break down for both the Joker and Batman alike, and with them any hope for Gotham's future. Now, what I liked about this is I've never seen a spin where the Joker was a good guy. And also, in this comic book, we get a Joker without makeup. He takes these pills that basically reverts him to a non-psychotic version of Jack Napier, but this non-psychotic version of Jack Napier, of the Joker, ends up being like super intelligent. And we see Joker without makeup on. We see Harley Quinn without makeup on. And then they ingratiate themselves with society and make Batman the villain. And it's really, really good. I recommend it. As a matter of fact, all the things that it's called comic book recommendations for a reason, because I enjoyed it and I recommend it. But fantastic story. Once again, that's Batman White Knight. Now for the next comic book recommendation. That's going to be American Vampires, Volumes 1 and 2. Now, the synopsis for American Vampire is a new strain of vampire has emerged, much more vicious than the traditional variety. Scott Snyder and Stephen King set fire to the horror genre with a visionary, all-original take on one of the most popular monster stories as they trace the creature's bloodline through decades of American history. This was recommended to me by Ralph Bott on Instagram, and big shout out to him. And I really dug it. I really found it super enjoyable. Volumes 1 and 2 are included with Comixology Unlimited. I think the other volumes you would have to pay for at this point. That might be included later. It's a story that takes place like from the Old West to like the 40s, and then it goes into the I think it goes into the 60s. But and it follows a vampire who affects another vampire, and then one's on the run, and then the other one is being chased. And at first, it's a little jarring because it is it's two stories in one comic book. It's the kind of the present day story, which takes place, once again, I think that's in the 40s, and then the other story, which takes place in the old, like the beginning of the United States, like in the 1700s, like with the settlers and cowboys and building train tracks and all this other stuff. And the stories end up intertwining as you get deeper and deeper into the books, but it's really good. And American Vampire I recommend as well. Volumes 1 and 2 are on Comixology right now. Now on to the next series, that being Black Hammer Volumes 1 and 2. Now, the synopsis for Black Hammer is, once they were heroes, but the age of heroes has long since passed. Banished from existence by a multiversal crisis, the old champions of Spiral City, Abraham Slam, Golden Gale, Colonel Weird, Madame Dragonfly, and Barbalian now lead simple lives in an idyllic, timeless farming village from which there is no escape. But as they employ all of their super abilities to free themselves from this strange purgatory, a mysterious stranger works to bring them back into action for one last adventure. This was definitely different, this Black Hammer series. It's a different kind of superhero comic, and I love the art too because it's not clean. It's not like the art of the 90s for like X-Men and X-Force. It's ugly, it's cool looking, and it's just different. This deals with it's how can I explain this? It's kind of like they're trapped in this place. Any way that they try to get out, they can't. And then one of the characters is kind of secretly finding out that maybe he's gay, but then he's like from another planet, and it's very, very interesting. It's very cool. There's this one older like space guy who he lives in this time, but then not really. It's almost kind of like Dr. Manhattan, where he's living in multiple times at the same time, but then he just is senile, and then he fades in and out of existence. It's very strange, but it's very cool, and it's cohesive. I'm explaining it the way that I am, but it does have a particular storyline, and like I said, I enjoy reading things. I like superhero comics, but I like when there's different spins on things, and this is a different spin on the traditional superhero comic that has traditional elements in it, but is definitely different. So Black Hammer Volumes 1 and 2 are on Comixology Unlimited, and I do recommend them. Now on to the next story, which is kind of a mashup, and that's Star Trek Green Lantern. Now, this is a one-shot graphic novel, so it doesn't kind of continue on to other stories. So, you pretty much just get the whole story in this one book, which is cool. The synopsis for this particular story, and also I just want to correct the name, it's Star Trek Green Lantern, The Spectrum War. Now, the synopsis is two iconic franchises collide for this blockbuster crossover event. The crew of the USS Enterprise meets the Green Lantern Corps for the first time in an all-new adventure that spans the cosmos. Kirk and Spock make a most unusual discovery on a lost world, igniting events that will change the fate of empires. Now, the story here wasn't so deep, but it was just super cool to see these two that would work because they're both kind of like take place in space, the Green Lantern Corps and Star Trek. Now, the Star Trek characters that are used in this particular story are the ones from the movies, the kind of like the ones from the movies that came out recently, the J.J. Abrams Star Trek, right? But I found this to be a bit of a guilty pleasure. Like I said, this was a lot of fun. It was a cool read. The art is fantastic in it. Definitely more contemporary. And you don't only just get to see Green Lantern, but you get to see all the other color spectrums. The blue spectrum, the red one, the yellow one, right? So very cool story. And to see these characters kind of mashed up was cool. And like I said, not the deepest story, but I do recommend it because it was a lot of fun. Now onto a book that everybody was talking about forever, being so good, and I finally got a chance to read it, and I concur that it was very good, and that is The Vision, Volume 1. Now, Volume 1 is included with Comixology Unlimited. Volume 2 is not, so you'd have to purchase that as of this date right now, February 2020, but that can change in the future. I know that I've heard that this series is what WandaVision, the upcoming Disney Plus show, is going to take elements from this particular series. This was published in 2015. This is Vision, Volume 1, and a synopsis of the story, this graphic novel. The Vision wants to be human and what's more human than family? So he heads back to the beginning, to the lab where Ultron created him and molded him into a weapon, the place where he first rebelled against his given destiny and imagined he could be more, that he could be a man. That there he builds them, a wife, Virginia, and 2 teenage twins, Viv and Vin. They look like him, they have his powers, they share his grandest ambition, or is that obsession, which is the unrelenting need to be ordinary. Behold the visions, they're the family next door, and they have the power to kill us all. What could possibly go wrong? Artificial hearts will be broken, bodies will not stay buried, and the truth will not remain hidden, and the vision will never be the same. Now, what I enjoyed about this is that it had a bit of a horror vibe. It had a bit of a dramatic vibe. And once again, this is Vision, Marvel, the Avengers, Marvel Comics. This is the Vision character, right? Like I said, it's a drama that has a bit of a horror vibe. It could be even disturbing at points. So, like I said, I love it when traditional comic book characters, there is a spin that you don't regularly see on TV or in the movies, but you see it inside our comic books, and this did it very well, and I definitely, once again, recommend The Vision, Volume 1, which is on Comixology Unlimited. Now for the last book is a book that I saw advertised on the Comixology front page, and I thought the art looked nice, but once I got into it, this book was fantastic. I really, out of this list, these are all fantastic, but I think this one was my favorite, and that's Alex and Ada. What is Alex and Ada about? The last thing in the world Alex wants was an X5, the latest in realistic androids. But after Ada is dropped into his life, he discovers she is more than just a robot. Now, this comic book is a combination of her with Joaquin Phoenix, the movie directed by Spike Jonze, where he falls in love with this AI that's on his phone, and also a show called Humans, which you can find on Amazon Prime with Gemma Chan, where they're these kind of real life androids that end up having feelings, but they can't show this to the world because they'll be scrapped for parts kind of thing. And this is a combination of these two things with some thriller aspects and romance aspects, and like I said, this was a fantastic book. I read this and I got emotional. The art is fantastic, where in Comixology it has this kind of guided panel view, and the way the art is drawn, it seems like it's animated. It's same panels, but then with slight movements of characters at points. But this one was one of my favorites. So those are my comic book recommendations. Pick up all of these, Comixology Unlimited. Definitely check it out. And if you do read or have read any of these, please let me know what you think. I'm going to go ahead and leave either description links or affiliate links for all the comic books that I mentioned on this episode. Also, the numerous ways that you can contact me. I want to hear your comments. I want to hear your feedback. And all the ways that you can support this podcast. I will leave that all in the Magical Mystical show notes or in the description for this video. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. My name is Paul V. Perez. The name of the podcast is the Improve and Have Fun Podcast, and the website is improveandhavefun.com. And I will catch you on the next one.